Good morning, MicroGiants. This is Ron Burgess here again with Edgar Martin in his studio, and we are getting ready to go through marketing workshop number 8, which really doesn't mean anything, but it's about digital advertising. And I'm going to run through 2 or 3 slides to bring you up to date on where we've been over the last 3 or 4 meetings, and then we're going to move right into digital, which probably we won't get done today because it's just a massive, kind of a massive area. We're gonna primarily just talk about media today, the digital media and where its places in advertising. We'll break it apart and do creative at another time. So first, just a couple of tools at our disposal. If you're following our our planning videos on how do you build a marketing plan and going through our marketing cycle, you would have at your possession, your positioning statement and company goals. You would know about your customers, and you'd have a little bit better sense about competition. And you've finally gotten to the point to where you've got your prospects' targets. In other words, you've identified your targets, and therefore you're going to pick your media for your target customers. And of course, that's the key right there: is who are your target customers and what media do you select. We're not going to get into heavy demographics about that today, but we're going to go through, and we'll get there. But we're going to go through and talk just in general, because things have really switched a lot in the industry in the last few years. And then again, this is how we got there, going through this marketing cycle kind of exercise where we start with customers and go all the way around. And so the 2 red ones sort of under execution is really where we're at now. Once we've got that positioning and targeting done, we're ready to actually do something and execute. So this is where we'll take a look at the communicate portion, having to do mostly with media. We'll do that. Normally in the sequence of creating something, you do the content first. But in this particular case, I thought we would just do the media, and then we'll get to the content after that, because content could take a long time, and I'm not, and there's a lot to talk about in that in terms of design and targeting and that sort of thing. Okay, and then you would, in that particular case, you do the messaging first based on your target market, and then you determine the media. And so we're at the determine the media stage, and so kind of here we go. Media. A campaign, which we talked about previously, has activities, a message, media, and then of course the calendar, and the media is where we're at. So first of all, how do you do the media selection? And we want to talk about media as a whole. In other words, all the things that you can pass, really, you can communicate a message with. And that goes, that includes everything from person to person, which is the way it started way back. And then we move into some of these other media that have really changed recently. But I thought I would list them so that those of you who haven't thought about it would have an opportunity to really see kind of what's happening. So if you take a look under traditional, you see newspapers, radio, TV, direct mail, or direct, which includes mail and telephone, and then outdoor or out of home, as they call it nowadays. And outdoor really is signage, posters, and all the way through the whole spectrum of things outside, including graffiti and large paintings. Then on the other side, the digital, the websites replaced newspapers to a large extent. Yes, there are people who still get their news in a newspaper, and there are people who, still have magazine subscriptions, which, is kind of part of the newspaper empire. Magazines, as many of you know, have been struggling for the last 15, 20 years. Newspapers are still struggling. A few of them are making it. A lot of them are not. Mostly local ones seem to be making it. But the website, which can be read on a computer or on a cell phone or on an iPad, really has replaced that media, and it's happened in a kind of a wild way. Secondarily, we've got podcasts, and sort of in a different kind of a way, podcasts have replaced radio. Now, it's not that podcasts have a lot of news on them; they typically are long format, But for the most part, that's the media that carries audio. And then we've got some new and interesting systems that have developed out of from the broadcast industry trying to get into the business. And these new terms have come out. Connected TV is one of them. That really means a television that has got the ability to connect to the internet, which means that you can do streaming on your TV. It means you can get a browser to open up on your TV, et cetera. And then OTT, which kind of stands for over the top, which is a little bit crazy, but the name that it is kind of, I guess, been accepted doesn't really describe it very well. We'll go through that in a little bit, just in a second. And then, of course, we have email, which replaces direct mail. And then naturally, we've got huge digital signs that you see on the highway now. So, in just about every way, digital has replaced every single media. I mean, it's really extraordinary. And I'll just segue for just a moment. I was recalling as I was building these slides, I was recalling an article I wrote in 1998 in the Inland Empire Business Journal. And it was sort of like, make your call. Is TV going to win, or will the computer win? And what we have is we've got, they kind of both won. So I would say that the computer won because the TV is just a screen. And now that the broadcast side of TV is just really waning, it's really clear that the internet / computer is, in fact, won. And I had called the winner the internet. And there were a few people that I ran into that said, "Oh man, you were really dreaming. That's crazy. How can you possibly expect the entire television business to get replaced with a computer, a little computer? That's impossible." Well, we're here, folks, and I'm here to show you the stats about that. So we've got this huge transformation that we just went through. Digital is now the center of everything. It's not sitting on the outside. It's not it's not an augmented thing anymore. It's actually the main thing. Let's look at the spending patterns. This is really terribly interesting, I think. When you take a look at 2018, which is not that long ago. Let's see if I can annotate this a little bit. There we go. So we're at 2018 right here. And if we take a look at the difference between here and 2022, which has been estimated through the end of the year, you can see the big one is mobile. And so here was mobile at what, 30%, something like that. And now look at it today, where it won't be long before it's 50%. So a lot of money is being spent on mobile, and it has grown a tremendous amount at the expense of, guess what, TV. Here you've got TV in 2018, and here you've got it today. And when you compare, kind of the length here to the length here, it's shrunk substantially. And then the next one is desktop, which is a little bit of a weird category, but I guess people do use their desktops. And look at it, this is a little, you have to look closely. Today, it's a teeny bit less than it was in just 4 years ago. Meanwhile, print, look at that. Man, oh man, has it gotten killed. And so the print is really really in trouble, as this would indicate. Green is radio, and it's held up reasonably well because people are still in their cars listening a lot. People are using their iPhones to listen to radio, and of course podcasts, which are not part of radio. I don't believe they're part of radio. That's probably part of mobile / TV. And then you've got the out of home, which has also gone down quite a bit. And then take a look at this slim thing here they call directories. It's hard to believe that there's a phone directory even in 2018, right?
That is insane. But we can't barely see the line at
No,
this point.
it's only a line, but the line is gone over here. It's just gone.
I mean, it made it into the category.
Yeah, right. And so, it's really changed a lot. And therefore, even though I sort of predicted it was going to happen all those years ago, it still just amazes me. Okay, let's see. I haven't used this tool before. I guess I have to get rid of it somehow in order to move on. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so now here, when we're just talking about streaming and TV, etc., here's the breakdown, and these are brand new numbers. 34.8% represents the streaming business. Cable is 34.4%, and this is right here. The reason I say, and it's sort of a win or an interesting crossroads is because literally this just happened in the last month or two. That the streaming was bigger than cable. That's literally just lately. Broadcast is 21.6%, and so broadcast represents TV. So here's TV, and the viewership is now just 21%. Mostly old people, right? When was the last time you just sat down and watched what they call linear television now?
I actually, I mean, if we define linear television as the over-the-air signal coming to my TV,
broadcast,
I haven't. Honestly, I just use a streaming subscription instead of TV.
Right. Exactly.
I'm watching the World Cup on a streaming subscription.
So I was going to say you have TV here, because we were just watching the Mexico game, and so, but even then you didn't. You're streaming.
I'm still streaming.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the way it is with me. I cut the cord on cable about 4 years ago. And one of the first in my generation, probably. I still have friends, who have and watch regular linear TV. And we don't even talk about it anymore. I'm watching programs on YouTube, and they're telling me about some sitcom that was on CBS. It's like, I don't know. But we don't watch that.
Forgot what CBS channel was too. The other day I was like looking for an actual regular TV for a customer on his restaurant, and we couldn't find it. It was that difficult. I was like, wait, what channel was it? Like with the regular channel? Because he didn't have a stream service.
Right.
So it was pretty just an idea.
So I mean, it's really blows me away to kind of even go through some of this stuff. So just to kind of back up a little bit, think about what media is. Well, the first media was actually on stone. They just carved it into a rock. And then clay tablets came along, and they learned how to do cuneiform, and they used that to instead of pictographs, they used that to represent words. And then, of course, we had the printing press, which came along many, many years later, but that really took over, obviously. And so here we are, and today it's like an iPad. So this is media, and this is what's happened. And so we kind of go, well, within each of the media, you've got your display advertising, but we also have this new video thing now, right? Mm-hmm. So display, in a way, is really moving, video is in a way moving display. And that's the only different. But I just wanted to relay that, we've gone through all of these different media, and we have really only added video because we've had drawn pictures for 4,000 years or something like that, right? And of course, all of this stuff has changed.
So now we got 30 pictures per second
Yeah,
at
right.
minimum, or 24 instead of one
Right,
time.
right. And really, they're just a whole bunch of stills that just fools our eye, right? So what is the digital media? For those of you who are maybe not quite as familiar with all the different forms, I may have missed one or two here, Edgar, if you see something, but Google AdWords, of course, that kind of started this whole the whole online ads, which have been supplanted largely by display ads now that are digital display ads in a large respect. But the Google AdWords are still good, and of course that shows up in your search when you do that. Digital ads we've talked about, including CTV and OTT, which we'll get back into in just a little bit more detail here. And of course, YouTube, which is really a video server. Then we've got social, which I think everybody knows what social networking is now: Facebook, Instagram. I think I misspelled that, and many more of those, as you know. And then Twitter, which is a little bit different than social media, although it's lumped under the category of social media. We don't know where Twitter is actually going to end up right at this point, but there's Patreon and not Patreon. Well, Patreon is more like YouTube, but there are several others like Twitter that are trying to compete based on whether or not there is some sort of editing or blocking of certain messages and freedom of speech, and that's another whole political thing we won't get into today. But those are all the basic digital forms that you can do advertising in. And keep in mind that the digital ads would also include, it includes any individual website that happens to be subscribing to a service that serves up ads. And so you can actually do that on your own home website if you wanted to. But the way it works is you have to have a massive amount of traffic in order for it to mean anything, because you don't get paid until somebody clicks on the ad. And therefore you've got to have tons of traffic for that to make any sense. But if you happen to remember looking at early, say, recipe websites, they're really nice, concise, and just get right down to it. Well, that was in the old days. Everybody has decided that they wanted to make some money on their websites, and now whenever you go to take a look at pea soup, you've got to read about the history of pea soup, about the types of pea soup, about how grandma made pea soup. Everything, they're writing content so that they can put ads in there, and they're trying, of course, to influence search so that they can get found. And there are, as usual, a few dominant players that end up getting found on that. I use my cell phone for recipes almost exclusively now. So here we go. Let's define these pieces, and then we'll kind of get into a broader discussion. Linear TV, that's pretty straightforward. That's the old-fashioned TV. We're not going to spend much time on that. Connected TV. A connected TV is a device that connects to or is embedded in a television to support video content streaming, a computer. And then there are different types of CTVs like Xbox, PlayStation, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and a lot more. I happen to use Amazon TV. My new TV came with Roku embedded, and then and so they're just little devices that stick on there. But because my TV is a smart TV and it has Roku, I don't need anything. So it is embedded, as they say. What that allows us to do is by streaming, you can really play on demand as opposed to actual streaming. So for those of you who are new to this, streaming is they're sending you something that you kind of assume is live. However, a lot of times they lie about this. It's not streaming anymore. It was streamed originally, and now it's just canned.
Yeah, it's like a DVR basically.
It's like a VDR, exactly. And so that's kind of how that works. And then over the top, this is the delivery of TV or video content directly from the internet, tablet, telephone, or iPhone, I should say, laptop, etc. And then the video is delivered in a streaming or video on demand format, which is like a VDR recorded. Different types of OTP services include Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and of course they control that. Same thing with Disney. It's like the old cable business, and that's really proliferated. You know, you go on there now, and I don't know how many I have. It's well over 1,000, maybe 2,000. It's just so ridiculously large that it's like it's not a directory. They call it a guide, but you can't find anything. Yeah.
And speaking of OTT, and I might be incorrect on this, I have to double check, but about 2 years ago, I remembered looking into, I don't want to call it open source, but consumer available OTTs for their own content.
Yeah.
Which have the ability to connect to certain applications like Roku TV or things like that, which allows you to also technically offer your own channel into a Roku service,
right,
using your own content creation,
right,
which is kind of the when I saw OTT, I was like, wait a minute, I think I might have seen into this, which it's another platform that potential content creators could utilize other than YouTube in the near future.
Yes, you're absolutely right, and there are a couple of others too. I have an old Red Fusion partner has decided to do a Roku channel. And you know, this was years ago, 10 years, maybe 10 years ago, when it was just available. And it required huge amounts of memory. You know, it was really a problem because of the storage and drives and so forth. So because he had all the equipment and he had the know-how, he decided to start. And all he did was find old movies that had no rights, and he would go through, copy them, and then he would spend 2 days uploading them. And it doesn't take that much now, but he amassed a large, over time, so he does it every month. It's like the something movie of the month. That's it. And so once a month he puts a movie on, and his residuals are in the 1,000 to 3,000, 4,000 a month now. And so it's like it's worked.
That's
and it's
beautiful.
just he, and he's got one employee.
The only company that I found that does that so far, no research, haven't tried it, anything like that, other than just looking into their plans, was Vimeo, which they have up to 7 terabytes of storage in their cloud services for the basic packages. So if somebody wanted to do something like that, it's becoming more available now.
Right.
It's something that's kind of unique to think about.
Vimeo was really quite early in allowing long format. And we used to do about three to 4 hour programs, video programs, for one of my clients who was in the avocado business. And it would take us a full day to upload that. And of course, what editing large files used to be like, and you had to have, pretty powerful equipment to do that. So the only place we could really upload them was Vimeo. They're the only ones that would take long format.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. But we managed to get it done and then link from the website. It was cool and very advanced for the day, Now it's all so much faster. Okay, and then the last thing I just want to mention is the performance analytics for digital. Amazing. You've used a lot of those. And you don't have them for newspaper. When we used to talk about performance analytics, you'd say, okay, I'm going to buy this ad in this newspaper. Or I used to do advertising in Glamour 17, magazines like that, fashion magazines, and for my own stores. And, you'd pay a lot of money, and you'd spend a whole day with a photographer trying to get the shot. It was just, oh my gosh. And you'd finally get it through, and you get it done, and you get it printed, and you're paying huge amounts of money. And it's sort of like, well, how did it do? Don't know. Did anybody come in and say, saw your ad? Mostly no. I mean, yeah, we had a couple of random people. I mean, I had some friends that would say, "Oh, saw your ad." We didn't have customers come in and say, I came here because I saw your ad. And we only did, we really had to stretch to do this. We only did the middle of the country, Rocky Mountain states actually. And I can't remember the cost, but it's just ungodly expensive.
And I can imagine being difficult saying that person, say the coincidence of him coming in because he saw your ad, or the chances that it's actually, they might not even know themselves why they showed up.
That's
the customer themselves.
That's exactly right.
And I think it happens to me sometimes where I forgot where I saw it. I just remember in this corner on this edge, there's a restaurant.
Yeah.
That I want to go visit.
Right.
Whether it was social media, was a flyer, was it a sign on the wall? I don't remember.
Right.
So when I go in there and I walk in there, is somewhere in my subconscious, I remember you were here thanks to marketing, but I can't give credit to the person that got me here, unfortunately.
Exactly right. And of course, it was Wanamaker, I believe, was the guy who was the owner of Wanamaker's department store in New York City. And they haven't been around for 20 years, but they were like, I don't know, May Company, Nordstrom's, they were big, successful people. And he said one time, which made him famous even more than his store, he said, I know advertising works, but I don't know which half. So, half of it works, half of it doesn't work, but I don't know the difference.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, that's right. That's where we used to be.
And that's the thing that I wanted to add. I think we're getting to a point where we no longer, I don't know if in the next 20 years, we might not even have to guess anymore. But now it's starting to kind of like, I start to see the beginnings of where the average, let's just call it Joe, can find out exactly where the marketing was coming from, where the clients came, who was watching.
And that's the magic of digital right there. And so now the question is, okay, how can we tie them together, or can we tie them together? And I think, to your comment, you really can't, because unless that can be recorded that your eyes hit an ad, and maybe we will get there someday, but for the most part, it's like, no, and that's branding. See, that's really branding advertising, as opposed to product advertising, where you're trying to get somebody to buy a product. You're getting somebody to respond to you. So you've got those two different approaches. And so doing a branding concept, a branding campaign, it's legitimate. I don't argue against it anymore. Maybe I should, but I've always said, let's not go crazy on branding, and let's begin to focus more on product or specific actions required kind of thing. So we want people to click on an ad, and we want to be able to tell which ads are attracting those eyeballs.
Now, one thing that I guess I want to throw in there, maybe as a possibility, is say, today I think maybe, and this thought just came to my mind, that you could potentially do branding advertisement with some sort of result to know how many eyeballs actually saw this in a digital world, but it's really difficult to find out how many people actually showed up to your location.
Yeah, well, but see, and take that another step. So 17 used to have 120 pages. I got one full page. So what were the chances somebody saw that? Well, they go, and then they give you all of this stuff. Oh, well, it sits on the coffee table, its lifetime is 3 months. And who knows how many people see that? And I'm going, well, okay, there are 4 people in the household. The guys are not reading the, 17, so half of them. So, we got to devalue that by this amount. And then, we don't know if they just thumbed through it or if they opened every page and looked at it. So how do we know that? So, it's very difficult to be able to tell. And so they would give numbers like, our readership is 2.4 million people.
And the results coming from, they just call it a biased opinion. It's like, there's so many people.
Yeah. So, but you've got to expose yourself. Okay, you'll get some exposure. But then you've got all the creative. And did you hit the right market? And was the image that you left the one that you intended to leave? And was it enough to get them to act? Did they actually get up out of their chair, make a phone call, drive down and see you? And the answers to those have always been so fuzzy that you can't really tell. So I think literally half the advertising never did work, never did. And so you want to make Bruce really right. It's like I'm wasting half of my advertising. I just wish I knew which half. So now what we can do is we can say, well, spend 2/3 of your money on digital advertising. If you've really got a history of spending a lot of money, say, in your local newspaper, and there are local newspapers that are quite effective. They have just a few pages. People tend to leaf through them once. They've got an opportunity to see any ad on there that is done well, that attracts your eye. And so you've got a reasonable shot. But for the most part, you have to devalue that 1.2 million by about 80%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, what was your cost per view? Well, we're only going to take a look at, say, 25,000 of those were, and therefore my cost per view was $1 a view or something like that if I spent $25,000. And they go, well, that's, X amount of, that's
compared to analytics of today, where even if it was branding, we know 5,000 people saw 3 seconds of that.
That's
we are
right.
almost sure, unless that person. No, even now it's getting better with the new format that they're using with the 9:16 format.
Right.
Because it will repeat, and you have to physically skip it.
Oh yeah, those are just amazing because you do have to get rid of it, like on YouTube or Instagram, right?
Yes.
And so if you have to get rid of it, for sure somebody's seen it, and that begins to tell you information that we never imagined possible.
Exactly.
Because if somebody is just skipping it, either they have kind of like the mental attitude that I do, and that is, I don't want anybody to even know that I like an ad. It's gone. Because I don't want them to start sending me more of anything.
Yeah, and I notice if you stick 3 seconds or longer in that ad, they know. They know They know that this is what you want to see.
That's right.
And they'll continue just moving.
So you get that, or you get another series of ads to build on that, which is wonderful for marketers because you can tell a story. Once you know somebody is going to see a whole story. I don't see much of that yet, which we'll talk more about as we get into creative. But if you see one, you shouldn't be seeing the same thing 15 times.
And right now it's I think a problem. I see that it's the same commercial coming up to the same person over and over again. And now there are parameters you can change. But maybe the people that are messing with those parameters might not be aware that they exist. Where for today, let's not bombard the same person with the same commercial.
So in theory, we talk about the customer journey all the time. It's like, well, what is instead of the old pyramid where you pour them in the top and a certain number get to the bottom, it's like, well, no, I mean, it's more like a cycle. People go through the cycle. Sometimes they never do buy, but they see what you're trying to sell and they either reject you or eventually. And so, but for the most part, that could be really advanced so that if you get them interested, then the question is, well, what are they interested in? And you can now do storytelling in 15-second intervals where you're walking people through. Now on TV, you see some of that stuff. I can't think of the name of the company, but there are several companies that are doing series and they're bringing certain actors in and certain actors out and then changing up the story, sometimes with new people, sometimes with the same people.
I saw something like that on the Super Bowl commercial where they're telling a story every commercial, but it's like, wait, it was like a detergent commercial. And it's like, yeah, it was a detergent commercial. And they were telling the whole story through the process, but it was 30-second commercials. Yeah. That turned out to be like a good 5-minute story. Right. It's kind of really interesting. Right. Now today with the new format, and I think TikTok discovered, and everybody's like, wait, what are they doing that we're not? And they were quick to be like, okay, we need to copy TikTok. Right.
Now, some of the creatives have gotten pretty good in that. And just, here's a story. If you'd like to hear the end, you got to subscribe. And so they're using that as a lead device to get them to go over to whatever other platform they're using. I think that's a pretty good idea. However, the advertisers could get a little bit, the platform could get a little bit better at helping people create little stories, which you don't get tired of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, part of the problem with streaming ads is the CTV type material is that literally you're watching the same channel and they'll give you the same ad 5 or 6 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because they didn't sell it all out, or maybe they didn't sell it out for my demographic. You know, they bought a certain demographic, and only 3 people bought that demographic, and so they're serving up 3 ads for me, and maybe they're serving up 10 for a different demographic. But as far as I'm concerned, I am now totally bored with the ads.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't show me any more of those, to the point to where if you have pre-roll that pops up in front, I see the same ad. It's like, sorry, there are enough things for me to watch. I don't need to sit through this ad again in order to watch what I intended to. Mm-hmm. So there's some problems with the way that's working. Okay, so let's see. So I just wanted to remind everybody that this can be a complicated process. Now, it's easy to buy AdWords for Google. That's pretty easy. You build an ad, you decide where your target market is, you plug that in, you determine how much money it's going to cost. You can, you know, almost anybody I think can use the interface and buy them themselves. And you bid on the ad based on the demographics, how many you're buying, the keywords primarily that you're trying to explore, etc. That's easy to do, but ad campaigns are more effective if they're integrated, and that's because when the branding that you're talking about, if you're doing a branding campaign and it's totally different than the rest of your ads, they may be so different that they're disjointed and the customer doesn't even recognize. And therefore, you want to tie your branding at some level into your advertising. And obviously, you've got to use the same logo. I mean, most people would do that, but I've seen mistakes where, you know, you've got a logo and then they pronounce the name of the business, you know, it's incorporated or one time and it's not the other time. And you have to be consistent about all of that kind of stuff. But why not use some of the same imagery so that they can tie it together? And why not try and be creative in how that whole thing comes together, so that you're doing a coordinated campaign with a specific, remember, building a campaign with a specific goal, and you pick all the media, etc., with specific final targets in mind. But I don't mean the target audience. I'm talking about, well, final goals, really. So if your goal is to get somebody to buy a blue widget, then you don't try and sell red widgets, you know, but you're going to show blue widgets, and you're going to show them in several different lights, and you're going to use the different media appropriately based on the design and the layout and the imagery that you use, because you'll do something different in, say, an email contact. An email contact can either ask for an immediate response right now and something very short and easy to make a decision on, or it might be a little bit more generic, like, you know, we've got this whole category of products, and if you're interested in the category, we'd like you to click on the ad and, you know, take us to the page that shows those specific things. The coordination is harder to do. It's just more complex. Mm-hmm. And so what this sheet really shows is that, you know, how to go through the process, including creative on the top, but then you've got the media over here. And in this particular campaign, we've got an email. We're going to do some website copy in order to be able to have landing pages. We're going to do a direct mailer that is old-fashioned hard copy. That is going to be pointed to, say, we'll have like a QR code that will be pointed to a specific website that sort of answers the question. Might have newsletter copy that goes to all your customers, and then social media. The social media is used pretty effectively for pushing people to other content. I haven't really found it to be effective in selling very much, but it does get people to content. So that's a little teaser. Twitter is very useful in this. You know, 2 or 3 or 4 words, or up to 99 words. or whatever the limit is, 120, I guess. And then you got a little picture and you click on it, and now you're really on that video in that particular case, or on the article that you wrote about that.
And I could, if you add something real fast, is when I have about 20 accounts or different businesses or restaurants that I've been doing marketing for in a very basic branding style marketing. What I found out though is that when I try to sell something through social media, I've got, so far, don't have enough data other than maybe those customers I'm playing with, and 90% negative response.
You're talking about from your prospective buyer?
So an example would be, I'm trying to sell a coupon.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell a burrito.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sell something specifically in social media.
You mean in the ad?
In the ad.
Okay.
I get very low response.
Oh, you bet.
90% less than when I started doing.
Yeah.
When I started doing commercials that were teasers. So it was like, okay, instead of selling something, we're gonna go and do branding.
Right.
Right. And we're only gonna talk about the city they're in and the street they're in, but we're not gonna go in detail.
Okay.
And so what ended up happening is we've got like a 90% result on interaction, people watch time, how long they were sticking around watching the commercial, how many people clicked on the link, went over, ridiculous. So just want to throw that in there, that we noticed that if in social media, instead of selling the product, we convinced them to say, hey, click on this link so you can learn more. It worked so much better than.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And I think that's the experience that generally happens, is that it's very difficult to quote close somebody in a very quick ad format. But in fact, they always want more information. And so as a matter of fact, this next and sort of final slide kind of shows this a little bit. This is kind of a customer cycle, but I like this slide because it shows from way over here in the early part of the experience, all the different things that we've talked about. You know, I don't know if you can read it: television, radio, print, events, sponsorships, search, SEO, content marketing, pop-up stores, social media, influence outreach, Google shopping, affiliate. And that's another whole area we'll have to talk about separately, and affiliates, of course. And so you go through all of these things, and finally you get up into these areas here where you're having a little bit more of a relationship with them, because you're doing some stuff in the community, you're re-engaging via your email, and then some of them come back in at this level. And so, and I've got another model that's really a kind of a circle that goes around in this, and some of them peel off and go through the customer thing, and a lot of them don't. So you're talking about, okay, well, how many of them? And I think the answer is, and you've just demonstrated that when we, and it's surprising to most people, when we do a search, we have almost all, 90-some 5% or something like that, will not even go to the second page. And so now you're on that page. And then they'll take a look, and you've got 60 or 80% click on the top one or two. And then it goes down commensurate to that. If you're not in the top 5 on a particular search page, chances of somebody seeing you are almost nil. So you go, okay, say you're 5. How many people are going to click on it? Well, you got 1,000 views, you're going to get 20. So there's the percentage. Now, of those 20 who get to your page, now they're hearing the pitch, or you're demonstrating, or whatever. You got the same thing going on. You're only going to get 5 or 10%, or maybe 1% or 2%. And so literally you have to have tens of thousands of exposures potentially in order to be able to get X number.
Yeah.
So the reason that the stats are important is that you kind of turn that upside down, and you say, okay, how much business do we want? Well, we'd like to make 10 sales. Okay, in order to do 10 sales, we're going to have to do at least 1,000, because it's going to be about a 1%. Could be 0.5%, could be 2%. I mean, it's like a crazy successful ad campaign might be 5%. So yeah, you're going to have that. But keep in mind, it's cumulative. the more people see it, and then they see the next one, and then they see the next one, then they tend to go, okay, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer. Sometimes people have to drive by a store 10 times before they get it. In the old days, they used to say, you have to, back in the traditional media, you have to be exposed 10 times before people can recall that they've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But on the internet, it's up to 25 times.
And again, another example recently is I really haven't heard of FTX until the news blew up that these guys went bankrupt. I'm not sure if you heard about them.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I knew who FTX was just by the name, but I couldn't remember why I saw them. But now that I go back and trace back my memory,
Yeah.
they were on a stadium in a football game that I
Yes,
watched,
yes.
number one, and I never noticed it.
Yes.
I just saw it.
People were complaining about them being such a new company and buying a stadium sponsorship.
Yeah.
It's like, who are these guys?
I was confused too. I was like, okay. But I don't remember until I started tracing my thoughts.
Yeah, right.
The other time I remember watching it was a Super Bowl commercial, but I wasn't paying attention. It was not my interest to learn about FTX at that point. So it was twice. Then I remember watching a YouTube video influencer that was talking about the most generous person in in the world, the most billionaire, generous billionaire in the world. That didn't age well, but the point was, now I went back and retraced the marketing strategy that they had, and at this point, it took me probably 5-10 times I probably saw their logo, until I finally remember that name in the back of my head. The crazy part of their marketing strategy, I think, was genius. I don't want to say anything else, but that's probably what they were. So, blew up so fast, so quick.
Right.
But I think they had a really good strategy when it came to marketing. They kind of matched what you were talking about earlier, which was it took 20 times before you remember that brand. And the cumulative, it wasn't just one and done.
Right, and see that's the kind of the saving argument for branding, and that is that it is a cumulative effect, and the more you get your name out there, the more people do finally remember it. But the branding, we had this lady close to me who was really a very nice but aggressive person. She had a day spa or something. Well, you couldn't interest me in a day spa, if you had a year. And I don't know, maybe my wife, but we're not small spa folk, so, but this lady would come up and hand me a card every time she saw me. Now, had I saved the cards, I would have had 20 or 30 of her cards. And every time I'd see her, I'd say, oh, how are you doing? It's nice to see you. I would see her at a chamber event or around town, and I got to know her. And she was always so nice. And then she said, well, but what about your wife? And what about your this? And I'm going, I don't know. No. I have sons. They don't want to go. Well, then your son's married. Well, they're not married. And this goes on long enough. Well, they're all married. Oh, they're married now. Here, take this card. It's going to be, 50% off. She never stopped selling. And she was quite successful, because everybody knew her name in town and everybody knew where her spa was. I wasn't a target market. I never entered her store in 30 years. Never.
But you still knew the brand. I wonder if you ever got her a customer even indirectly by, oh, wait, I know a spa down the street from here.
Well, everybody would use her name, almost as a brand, and everybody knew who she was. And so, if it ever came up to where somebody would, come to me and say, Ron, do you know a good day spa? This is the only one I know of, it's the only one I can remember.
Yeah.
So it probably did help. She was nice about it. She knew she was sort of overdoing it, but she made it a joke. And, and she's a local entrepreneur. Everybody respected that. She made a decent living doing it. So that kind of branding, really very effective. And we couldn't convince her to do anything digital at all. It was all person to person, face to face. That's the way she did it. So that's, I think those are my slides. Oh no, one more thing. The analysis on analysis. We're just going to throw this out. We'll need to spend some time on this, and you'll be able to help us a lot with some of the things you were talking about. But here are this is just one platform. Google Analytics is certainly something that can come with every website. Your webmaster should set that up for you automatically and have that ready and give you access and even maybe help you read it if you need it. And but this happens to be Top Clicks is the name of it. This is a big commercial one that is used by very large, what do I call them? They want to be called agencies, but they're really selling television, radio or TV. They're old broadcasting companies, and every single one of them has turned themselves into an agency selling everything digital you can imagine. Mm-hmm. Some of them know what they're doing, and some of them do not know what they're doing, but they're all trying to do it. My point here is that with these kinds of analyticals, we can really drill in and we can really find out. And that's the reason digital is so powerful, as you mentioned. So I wanted to take a couple of minutes and talk more specifically about some of the stuff you're doing. Can you describe kind of for other MicroGiants, what kind of social media and digital work you're doing for your customers right now?
So out of necessity for some of my customers, there was a lot of confusion about social media, right? And I think I was able to kind of narrow it, and I deal mostly with restaurants. So this might not apply for a real estate agent, for example,
right.
But I feel that at least we can take something from it. The biggest thing that I've noticed is that most confusion came in with social media management, right? Which in my opinion is kind of like the content creation of part of the social media.
Yeah.
Right. Some are better than the others. And then there was the tool that you could utilize once you had the content to truly push it to its full potential, which was actually advertisement.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now that you created content in your restaurant, how can you have people come in? Either and I divided it in two categories. Organically, you pay for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're really good at bringing traffic organically, then you already figure something out. Right. That's I can't go in there and coach somebody how to organically build the traffic, because it might take quite a long time. It's kind of like Goodwill on a retail shop, but online.
Yeah.
So what I focused mostly was to tell them, like, with the least amount of budget that we could utilize, the bare minimum every restaurant can do, have zero excuse.
Yeah.
Is do some sort of branding, marketing strategy using social media and their tools that they offer for you to be in at least 5 mile radius,
right?
Which is typically the audience for a restaurant, popping up consistently, and like we talked about, one time, all the way up to maybe 5 times. And so what we did is we created a kind of like a Corona commercial, where if 90% of people talked about the Corona commercial, the Christmas one, everybody kind of comes to their mind is the one with the beach, and you have a little lights on the top and little music in the background, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with beer, maybe it does for some, but the point is that we know that's the Corona commercial.
Right.
So to save money to a lot of the customers, we created a Corona commercial for the restaurant, something that we can utilize repetitively for a very long time.
Yeah, great.
And then we put it on a campaign using social media, for now Facebook and Instagram. We blasted it, and we're averaging 5,000 people to the Facebook call it reach. Right. The reach, we can reach 5,000 people.
Yeah.
But 5,000 people doesn't really mean anybody can probably get 5,000 people to be reached.
No. I mean, that's an accomplishment. I mean, reach is hard to do too. Yeah.
So 5,000 is the reach. The hard part was interaction.
Yes.
Like, can we get people to interact?
Right.
And so there's a few things, a little checklist, but the end result was we were able to learn from one city, one location, one restaurant, one type of food, keywords that allow us to get people those 5,000 people to actually start interacting with view time, how long they were watching the video,
right?
Interacting with the comment section, started leaving comments, also interacting with the link. And the campaign was, we never sold anything. We just tried to straight up said, brand, learn more, click this.
Yeah, here we are, learn about it, look at the menu maybe, get onto the website, And
the data we got out of this when it comes down to analytics was, we showed the commercial to the same person average 3 times in about 6 months. So we do the year, that's a 6th time per person that they remember.
Yeah.
So
see, now there's not only is that good data. But think about that.
Mhm.
You couldn't even tell if somebody's eyes landed on your newspaper ad.
Yeah.
And now you can tell how many times you've hit an individual person. This is very key for people who are into the data and manage that data, because this tells you what you do right and what you do wrong.
Another cool thing we noticed was how long they were watching and when they stopped watching, right? And so that some of the questions to ask myself is, why did they stop watching?
Right.
They will stop watching because they clicked the link, or they stopped watching because they were just not interested.
Right.
And so you could kind of tell based on 50% of people stopped watching, but a good 25% of them clicked on the link. So we're like, we did something right. 25.
So only 25% of them left without doing anything.
Or hopefully we left an impression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing interesting is the amount of time that they spend watching.
Right.
We with very little effort, we know all this data, which is valuable.
Right.
3 seconds. Who watched 5 seconds? Who watched, and the format was really important.
Right.
We noticed that the format, which is, I believe, and I put some notes here from what you were talking about, but when I was in college for 3D modeling animation, they called about the golden ratio, 16:9.
Yeah.
And put the little person to the left and to the right, and
Yeah.
that's the aesthetically pleasing, correct way to film.
Yeah.
But I think we got stuck in that rule all the way up until TikTok kind of broke that rule.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, big time too.
and said pretty much, hey, well, people are watching phones with one hand, not with two anymore.
Yeah.
They need the other hand freed up for whatever reason.
Some of them can flip through just with the thumb.
with the thumb.
Yeah.
So what I think would happen, and this is where I think in my opinion, when things started kind of getting a little bit interesting, is when they said, okay, let's go from 16:9 ratio to a 9:16 ratio, which is basically the long format, the type of TikTok format.
Right.
All they did is flipped it.
Yeah.
Now you're immersed on the big screen.
Right.
Now that now your shots need to be, when we were filming the food, we didn't have 16:9 as primary shots. We had the format that TikTok uses as our primary aesthetically pleasing format.
Yeah.
And so we took that approach. And again, what I told my customers, content creation and organic is one thing. What I'm doing is mostly like trying to build some sort of commercial just for you. Like this is not a content creation for organic. This is to try to figure it out. This is a commercial. I mean,
it's a commercial in the true sense of the word. You know, I mean, you're building it to try and get a response. Yeah.
So we used cool, sharp colors, spinning food 360. We did whatever we could to try to make this thing look good. And I think it was a combination of those little things that we saw a good result.
Right.
That's when we're like, okay, we have something here. So we started playing with it. And to this point, we have a commercial that's been running for 6 months. 12,000 people have seen it. Over 100 people have shared it.
Great.
Comments are great. And then one thing we know.
And just note that ratio.
Yeah.
12,000 to 100. And then, and at the same time, you're going, hey, we had 100 people. That's success. And it's because of the low cost.
And the other cool thing, I can prove that they went because they left the comment saying, this is a great food, or something that might be a little aggressive saying blah, blah, blah. I didn't like this. Yeah. But that's proof that it's working.
Yeah, right.
So I don't have the actual proof of how many see, but if we use some sort of rule of thumb, like, hey, out of these people that left a comment, they went to visit.
Exactly.
How many actually visited, they didn't leave a comment.
Right.
And so the customers that I have, we're pretty excited. So we created this, and every customer I have that wants the service, I kind of do one commercial for them, run it, and call it the branding commercial. What I've learned in this journey was how quickly, how efficiently, how affordable we were able to collect data that I think maybe 15 years ago would have cost thousands of dollars to come up with that type of information.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason in the early days when we were building websites, and until Google came along with their really incredible statistics, there wasn't any way to tell anything, and so we literally tried doing manual stuff to try and figure out, well, okay, what does this really look like? And then you had Alexa come along and a couple of other people building these tools, but you didn't know if you believed them, and we would take information from one website, and we would try and put it over here and build on spreadsheets. But then by the time we got done, I mean, because our time is expensive, you're talking hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in order to be able to create a report that may not tell you much more than you already knew. And then that's assuming that it was all correct. So this has come a long way in 20 years. And now all of the data is not always right all the time, but it's really close.
And it's like you said, we can compare back then to now. Even if the data is not correct, it's correct to a point where it can actually be useful for, it helped us change the design of the video.
Yes.
We used a tactic similar to Cocomelon.
Yeah.
Because I learned that Cocomelon was really addicted for the kids in Netflix. Yeah. And I just watched it, and I remember somebody pointing it out. I don't know who it was. Can't give credit to that person, unfortunately. But that every scene, it was the same scene, but it changed positions no longer than 3 to 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
So I just used the same tactic.
Yeah.
And since we started doing that, all of a sudden we had a very successful commercial that now we can replicate into many things other than just probably.
And in the old days, and I don't want to spend, they're over. So, it's sort of like we can forget about that. But it used to be that you would have design directors and art directors that would say, well, we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, they didn't know. That was just their personal kind of sense of what was the right thing to do. And not that they were all wrong. They weren't. There were a lot of very, very perceptive people in the advertising business in the olden days. But now it doesn't matter. Now you can do this stuff on your own if you simply allow this feedback system to tell you what's working and what's not working. And you've taken it another step. You've actually taken it into the customer feedback loop, because once they go and then they leave a message, now you've actually gotten a customer survey of a type that begins to help you get additional information. And so, and we've talked about that several times, about developing a feedback loop so that you can fix problems with customers and give them what they want. And so this is a terrific ally to just that whole information gathering in the analytical piece.
Yeah. And real quick, I don't know if you want to stop sharing your PowerPoint. So.
Oh, I do.
So I could add one more thing to that. There is something that I wanted to go back and maybe bring up about the streaming versus the television that I didn't get to point, kind of maybe get your opinion on this. But a lot of and this was personal opinion, I don't know if a lot of people feel the same way. I choose to stream because of the user interface, not because it's better quality or whatever the case might be. When I'm looking for a Mexico game, I want to find it in 2 seconds, not spend hours trying to find the guide, remember what channel 2, 3 was. So often that I had the choice to use the direct line to watch the Mexico game that I have a receiver, or stream it, even though I was going to be behind a few seconds, which I'll bring another cool thing that maybe we can talk about in the future. But I chose to be behind 2 seconds, turn off my notifications, just so I can find my game quicker. That was just something that I wanted to bring it up that came to my mind. The user interface on streaming is so much easier than the old school television.
Well, and I alluded to how many channels they had in our sort of pre-game discussion, but that's an old-fashioned interface. And I have noticed with my new television, I used to have just Prime, and that was my interface. And I got used to it, and it was okay. And then, of course, I had the Alexa voice thing, and that was all great. I had a little bit of a glitch going on. Occasionally, it would just die, and I'd have to unplug it and refresh. But now that I'm seeing 3 or 4 of them, because I've got Hulu and I've got Roku, as I mentioned, I still have Prime and a couple of others. I'm realizing that the battle for all of these services is exactly that: it's user interface. They're not very good at this. They're not making it easy. So, but that's a different story. But what it does is it's an illustration of how your product can get in the way of the customer. You can actually keep your customer from engaging.
So that's something that was interesting when you were mentioning all this, that it could cause the reason why people might also, switch over.
Yes, it
is. And
is.
then the other thing that I think is changing streaming completely, and I'm barely feeling the taste of this, I haven't really got involved in networking, high-speed internet on a local network and external network.
Yeah.
But I started calling some of the internet providers. They're
Mhm.
getting to gigabit speeds into your home.
Yeah. Wow.
Some of them are promoting 2.2 gigabits. So I was like, okay, well, what do you need all that speed if you don't have the local network that can handle it?
Yeah.
Then I went to Best Buy and I looked at Wi-Fi 6. I did a little research on it, and now you can have a local wireless network using Wi-Fi 6 with some proper routers,
Wow.
transferring data between wirelessly that could
Yeah.
go up to the 2.5 gigabit.
Wow.
So I tested it. I had a customer that had the internet pretty fast enough. I said, you want to invest on these routers? I went to his restaurant, hooked everything up just to test it out. We were streaming 7 televisions, and they were all within milliseconds.
Streaming 7 televisions.
At the same time.
Wow.
And it was high K. I also found a channel that was streaming 4K.
Yeah.
So I went in there and I tested this thing out. And I'm like, this is beautiful. This actually streaming might actually overtake
Yeah.
truly television with the direct line eventually, once the technology becomes more available.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we're very far away from it, and
I would be surprised
the
if
rapidity of
5
the
years.
yeah,
If
5
that.
years it'll be done. And I have a feeling some of the technical guys kind of understand this. When they first started, when Verizon first started this big network that they worked on for years, and then of course as we moved up to 5G from 4G, et cetera, it's kind of like, really? Do you really need it? But you see, I mean, there is an application where you go, well, we want to stream everything in every house, and every house has got 2 or 3 or 4 TVs, but they also have computers. And they, so now you've got, I mean, in my house, and there are only 2 of us, we normally have on 2 computers in one or 2 laptops, because we don't turn them off. And so it's going to them all the time. And we have a TV that is many times going, because I very, very often work in front of the TV because I'm watching the stock market. And so, now here we are, 2 people, and we got 5 or 6 devices connected at one time. I mean, it's crazy, but they make it so easy. So it's like, well, why not do it? Because I'm gonna walk from one room to the other room. So yeah.
And finally, another thing I wanted to add, technology, I think, is making a big difference on this. The quality, the feature, what it can bring for marketing. I believe you can buy an 8K monitor. There's cameras that can film in 8K. All LEDs. These screens are beautiful.
Yeah.
So I feel that the next level marketing, that super high-end quality of just imagery that you can put in front of people, could become also the next edge that can bring marketers to the next level.
Well, it will. However, how often do you need that? Do you need that in order to sell a burrito? Then on the other hand, would it work better for ice cream? But for sure, it's going to work better on a Coach handbag or a Versace.
Where you can see the details, the edge. And so, and I'll go maybe in detail later an idea, but putting these type of monitors in a big lunch break room has always been one of my dreams.
It's been part of your plan.
And planned for a while.
Right. And of course, and I mean, way back, when I did that very first article, I did one shortly after that, talking about how retail business, because in those days I was primarily consulting just to retailers, how retail business was going to have to kind of get hooked in with the web. What are they going to do with that? And how does that work? And the answer is what you're talking about now. But even then, they could have done stuff. And then we've got these, wonderful vertical monitors that you can put on a pillar or a post. You've got interfaces with the product being demonstrated for, say, hiking boots, that kind of thing. There's a whole lot that can be done. But the truth is that the content, and I left that for last, the content is so hard to do that you can't keep up with it. And so you have to have a content management plan in order to be able to afford to do the content the way you would like to, because you're a small company. Now, the giant companies, they should be able to do that. However, they're disjointed. You don't have people who understand all aspects of marketing and technology. You've got to overcome just the weight of the bureaucracy. And so it takes a visionary at the top of every company in order to be able to pull that stuff together. I believe we are going to eventually go into a store where we buy 50% of our stuff is going to be from the monitors in the store and the interfaces in the store, not the merchandise in the store. There'll be display rooms primarily. And I've thought that for 10 or 15 years.
And I think that Amazon and what they're doing could make that possible. Because last night at 3 a.m. in the morning, I order a security bag to put cash in it, for example.
Yeah.
It showed up today at morning before I woke up.
Yeah, amazing.
So if you have a showroom, you see it, you scan it, you hit a button,
yeah,
and you know that maybe later on in the day is going to show up in your
your
front door.
Oh yeah.
You don't need to have the merchandise.
No, you don't.
Packed in there. You could have a showroom.
That's right.
Of one item there, the display selling it to you, not the actual person.
That is exactly
show
right.
up right there in your display.
And that ties into the whole experience that goes on. If you have a physical location, what is the experience that you have when you go to that physical location? And that's what I've always called the Disneyfication of retail. Mm-hmm. In other words, you ought to be moving towards Disney, not away from Disney. And just in terms of, what would it be like if you could do everything the way Disney did it in your perfume shop? I was in a place that sold, nothing but olive oil and vinegar. That was it. One thing. It was fabulous. It was fabulous. And everybody who goes in there, because they've got about 40 or 50, 60 flavors, everybody goes in there, buys something. So I was chatting with them. And I was just saying, how much business do you do here? And what about your online? 50% of their business is online already. They just sell 2 products.
Oh man. And here, and I know I just wanted to because the time was kind of short, throw them in there. But another thing I wanted to kind of talk about earlier that you mentioned was the reason I think streaming on mobile has become so more popular than ever before is not just the technology, but also the people that back in the day, in my opinion, not based on my father, for example, as an example, is these were hardworking men that normally wouldn't watch TV when they got home. They wouldn't watch a TV show, anything like that. Because that was just kind of like the thing about father. He never watched TV ever in his life.
Wow.
Now he watches YouTube because a content creator for free created something that he's interested in.
Okay.
And my father's now a subject to an advertisement, an audience that no one could have ever captured
before. Right.
So my father now is getting advertisement for the first time in his life.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Because in an audience that normally wouldn't have the ability to put advertisement in front of them is now available.
Right. Well, and think about that in the third world. I'm not associating with the third world. I'm thinking about Africa and Asian countries where somehow they managed to get their hands on a cell phone. And now they have access to the entire world if they can learn how to use that. Well, now you've got somebody maybe potentially living in a hut that if you needed to advertise to them, you could.
Yeah.
And so and this off the subject, but from a political standpoint, you may have a whole lot of people in that situation who have access to cell phones. They never watched television before. They couldn't read a newspaper. They couldn't get it delivered in their village. And now all of a sudden they're seeing what the rest of us have. This is a formula for issues, So there, that's the sort of the social side of it. We're getting a little ways from advertising.
It is. I think we do see a little bit of it on the battle for control of the social medias.
Well, we do absolutely.
Not only for advertisement, I'm assuming.
And what's going on with Twitter is just a current example. And it shows, and I guess in a great way to sort of wrap this session up, is that it shows that there's an incredible amount of opportunity and influence in the digital world. And the accessibility is unprecedented. And small businesses need to understand, and they need to try the best that they can to partake of this because it is inexpensive, it's scalable. and you don't have to come up with thousands of dollars in order to get started.
Yeah. And also, if I'll add to that, and I don't know if it's a good note to end because it might trigger another conversation, but because it's so effective, you have to also be careful that what you're selling is not going to come back and hunt you down based on the reputation that you can get from it.
Well, you do. The more you do it, the better you have to be with your customers.
Yes.
The better your products have to be. Everything has to be better, and so it's a huge challenge to do. You know, that old ad where they were showing the commercial where the guy's watching the responses of his new website, and it goes to like 3 million or something, and so they went from having nothing to running all over the place trying to fill the orders. I mean, that never happened, right? But it has increased sales in certain businesses because they did it right, or they hit a certain niche, and you do have to be able to respond. If you can't fulfill what it is that you're trying to sell, that's negative too. So you have to be prepared to be resilient and pull your ad and apologize when you make mistakes and keep track of customers and say you're sorry, and all of those things are now required. You just can't sit around waiting for somebody to walk in the store and occasionally sell something. That's just not going to get it cut.
Yeah, the communication between customer and producer and consumer, I believe, is becoming almost necessity when somebody leaves a comment.
You bet.
A lot of people's like, if we ignore it, it'll go away. Well, maybe not.
No, you know what? Those negative comments on product pages are up there for a long time. And if you get a few of those, it's really hard to overcome. Yeah. So.
Awesome.
Well, good. Really good session. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Edgar. And we will see all of you. Oh, be sure to check the notes down below. And we'll have some associated videos there. A couple will come on that are associated with previous things that you might have missed leading up to this. Those will be on the screen at the very end of this. And please be sure to subscribe and tell all your friends to subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.